Deep within the emerald canopy of Central and South America's rainforests, a living jewel moves among the leaf litter. It is an animal so vibrant, so shockingly colorful, it seems to have been painted by an artist with a flair for the dramatic. But this beauty is a deception, a warning label for one of the most potent poisons known to science. We are talking about the poison dart frog, a creature that proves that the most dangerous things often come in the smallest, most beautiful packages. Forget massive predators with claws and teeth. The true master of lethality might just be an amphibian smaller than your thumb, carrying enough toxin on its skin to kill 10 grown men. This is nature's ultimate game of look, but don't you dare touch. The undisputed king of this toxic family is the golden poison dart frog. This tiny amphibian, glowing with an almost supernatural yellow light, grows no larger than about 50 millimeters. Yet, it is widely considered the most poisonous animal on the entire planet. To put its power into perspective, consider the deadly inland taipan, often hailed as the world's most venomous snake. The golden poison dart frog is 100 times more lethal. A single frog carries, on average, about 1 milligram of a poison called batrachoxin. That may not sound like much, but it's enough to end the lives of over 20,000 mice, or between 10 and 20 adult humans. The lethal dose for a person is estimated to be just 0.2 of a microgram. That is an amount smaller than a single grain of salt. If you had a tiny cut on your finger and simply brushed against this frog's skin, the poison could enter your bloodstream. There is no antidote, there is no treatment. Death is swift and agonizingly certain. The poison itself, batrachoxin, is a terrifyingly efficient neurotoxin. Our nervous system is a complex electrical grid. Nerves communicate with muscles by sending electrical signals, called action potentials. This process is meticulously controlled by tiny gates on the nerve cells called sodium channels. When a signal needs to be sent, these channels open, sodium ions rush in, and the nerve fires. Then, just as quickly, the channels close, allowing the nerve to reset for the next signal. Batrachotocoxin throws a wrench into this perfect system. It binds to these sodium channels and forces them to stay permanently open. Sodium ions flood the cell without control. The nerve can no longer reset or generate a proper signal. It becomes electrically dead. The communication lines between the brain and the body are severed. The result is complete and irreversible muscle paralysis. Within minutes, the victim's diaphragm stops contracting, halting breath. The heart, the most critical muscle of all, stutters and falls silent. This deadly power has not gone unnoticed by the humans who share the forest with these frogs. For centuries, indigenous peoples such as the Imbera Chaco of Colombia have carefully used the frog's secretions to tip their hunting blowgun darts. They gently brush the tip of the dart along the frog's back, collecting a microscopic film of the toxin. They are so careful, in fact, that the frog is usually unharmed in the process. These poison darts are capable of dropping monkeys and birds from high in the canopy, as the nerve paralysis is almost instantaneous. It is this ancient practice that gave the entire family of Dendrobatidae their common name, the poison dart frogs. But the golden poison frog is not alone in its chemical warfare. There are hundreds of species, each a unique masterpiece of color and toxicity. There's the strawberry poison dart frog, a name far too delicious for a creature so dangerous. It sports a fiery red body, but some varieties have legs of a brilliant sapphire, earning them the nickname blue jeans frog. Then there's the green and black poison dart frog, which looks like a walking piece of mint chocolate chip ice cream. And the dying poison dart frog, whose swirling patterns of yellow and black on a blue background give it a psychedelic, almost electric appearance. Each of these species, along with others like the phantasmal poison frog and the granular poison frog, represents a unique chemical cocktail. Researchers studying these amphibians have discovered hundreds of different toxic alkaloids on their skins. The vibrant coloration of these frogs is no accident of evolution. It is a deliberate and highly successful survival strategy known as aposematism. This is the combination of a conspicuous signal, usually bright colors, with a defense mechanism like being poisonous, venomous, or just plain foul-tasting. Wasps have their yellow and black stripes, monarch butterflies have their orange and black wings, and poison dart frogs have their neon skin. The message is simple and universal across the animal kingdom: I am dangerous. Eating me will be the last and worst mistake you ever make. This strategy is a fascinating evolutionary bargain. A few individuals might be sacrificed while predators learn the lesson, but once learned, the entire species benefits. One study demonstrated this perfectly when scientists presented different colored models to birds. The birds were far more likely to attack the less conspicuous blue models than the brilliant, almost glowing yellow ones. The flashier the frog, the safer it was. The color is not camouflage, it is a shield. But here's the most astonishing secret of the poison dart frog: it does not create its own poison. Unlike snakes, spiders, or jellyfish, which produce their toxins through a process called endogenous biosynthesis, poison dart frogs are chemical thieves. They get their toxins from the food they eat. This remarkable ability to consume something poisonous and store those toxins for one's own defense is called sequestration, and it is exceedingly rare in the vertebrate world. The frog's body is a sophisticated chemical processing plant. Their diet consists of tiny arthropods like ants, mites, and millipedes, many of which have evolved their own chemical defenses to avoid being eaten. But what is a deterrent for most animals is a treasure for the poison dart frog. They actively seek out these toxic snacks. The scientific detective work to uncover this connection has been painstaking. Researchers have analyzed both the frogs and their potential prey, matching the chemical signatures. They found that strawberry poison dart frogs get many of their alkaloids from tiny Orobatid mites, minuscule arachnids that produce their own toxins. Other alkaloids have been traced to specific ants and siphonotid millipedes. The source of the deadliest poison of all, batrachotoxin, was a mystery for decades. Finally, scientists identified a small genus of mellurid beetles as the likely origin. The frogs that live in areas with these specific beetles are the ones armed with the most lethal toxins. The evidence for this dietary link is undeniable. When poison dart frogs are raised in captivity and fed a diet of non-toxic fruit flies or crickets, they grow up completely harmless. Their bright colors remain, but their chemical shield is gone. A captive-bred golden poison frog is no more dangerous than a common garden frog. Similarly, if a toxic wild frog is brought into the lab and switched to a non-toxic diet, its poison levels gradually fade over time as the stored alkaloids are metabolized and not replaced. They literally are what they eat. This leads to two profound biological questions. First, how do they move these potent toxins from their stomach to their skin without being affected? And second, how do they avoid poisoning themselves with their own defense? The full answer to the first question is still being investigated, but we know they have specialized glands in their skin. Mucus glands keep their skin moist, which is essential for an amphibian's survival. But interspersed among these are serous glands, which are tiny sacs that store the alkaloids. When the frog is threatened or attacked, ducts connected to these glands can release the poison onto the surface of its skin. The exact transport mechanism that carries the alkaloids from the digestive system into these glands is a complex process likely involving specialized binding proteins that safely shuttle the toxins through the frog's bloodstream, like a hazardous materials team escorting a dangerous substance. Even more incredible is how some frogs don't just store the poisons they eat, they upgrade them. They are not just chemical warehouses, but chemical factories. Certain species of frogs consume arthropods that contain an alkaloid called pumiliotoxin. In a stunning display of biochemical engineering, the frog's body modifies this compound. It adds a hydroxyl group, a simple oxygen and hydrogen atom, to the molecule's structure. This seemingly small change transforms it into a new alkaloid called allopumilioton, which is 5 times more toxic than the original substance the frog consumed. The second question, of self-immunity, is a masterpiece of evolutionary adaptation. How can an animal be saturated with neurotoxins that are designed to paralyze nerves and not paralyze itself? The answer lies in tiny, targeted changes at the genetic level. In the case of batrachotoxin, which targets sodium channels, scientists discovered that the poison-resistant frogs have a minute alteration in the very protein that makes up those channels. A change in a single amino acid, one of the fundamental building blocks of a protein, alters the shape of the channel's binding site. It's like changing the lock on a door. The poison is the key, but it no longer fits. It simply cannot attach to the nerve cell, rendering it harmless to the frog, while it remains deadly to any predator without this specific genetic mutation. This is a remarkably elegant solution. Researchers have found that the golden poison dart frog has multiple gene substitutions and mutations that grant it immunity not just to batrachotoxin, but to dozens of the other dangerous alkaloids it sequesters. This is what makes them so special. A pufferfish, another famously toxic animal, only has to evolve resistance to its own single toxin, tetrodotoxin. Poison dart frogs have somehow developed a biological defense system that can handle a vast and varied arsenal of poisons. Given how incredibly lethal the poison is, especially from a frog like the golden dart frog, how can any predator even learn to avoid it? If the first encounter is 100% fatal, there is no opportunity for learning. First, not every frog has the same level of toxicity. A juvenile frog has had less time to accumulate toxins from its diet and may carry a non-lethal but still intensely unpleasant dose. A predator that tries to eat a young frog might get violently ill, experiencing temporary paralysis or intense pain, but survive. That predator will never forget the lesson. Brilliant yellow means agony. It will avoid all similarly colored frogs for the rest of its life. Furthermore, a predator doesn't have to fully ingest the frog. A curious snake or mammal that simply nudges the frog with a wet nose or licks, it might get a dose of toxin that is painful but not fatal, providing another opportunity for learning. Over vast evolutionary timescales, another factor comes into play: innate avoidance. Predators that had a genetic predisposition to be wary of brightly colored prey were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. Over millions of years, this can hardwire an instinct to avoid these living warning signs. But what about predators that don't rely on sight? The forest floor is teeming with hunters like bullet ants and large bromeliad spiders. Researchers tested this by presenting both toxic strawberry dart frogs and non-toxic Bransford's litter frogs to these invertebrate predators. The spiders refused to attack the toxic frogs at all, while readily consuming the non-toxic ones. The bullet ants would attack and eat the less toxic juvenile strawberry dart frogs, but avoided the fully loaded adults. Even without color vision, these predators could detect the danger, likely through chemoreception, sensing the alkaloids directly. However, the frogs are not invincible. Evolution is a constant arms race. In the deep forests of Colombia, there is one creature that has managed to crack the golden poison dart frog's impenetrable defense, a species of snake known as the fire-bellied snake. This snake is the only known predator of the adult golden poison dart frog. It has evolved its own resistance to batrachotoxin, allowing it to consume the most poisonous vertebrate on Earth. This is a dramatic example of coevolution, where the frog evolves a more potent poison and the snake, in turn, evolves a stronger resistance. Sadly, the greatest threats to these magnificent creatures are not their natural predators. Despite their formidable chemical arsenal, about a quarter of all poison dart frog species are classified as endangered or critically endangered. They cannot fight against widespread habitat loss, as the rainforests are cleared for agriculture and logging. They are also highly susceptible to a devastating fungal disease called chytridiomyces, which has wiped out amphibian populations worldwide. And ironically, their beauty makes them a target for the illegal exotic pet trade. People want to own these living gems, not realizing that a frog bred in captivity is a pale, non-toxic shadow of its wild counterpart. These are threats that no amount of poison can protect them from. The poison dart frog is more than just a biological curiosity. It is a testament to the intricate and often brutal beauty of evolution. It shows us how a delicate balance of diet, color, and chemistry can create an animal that punches far above its weight. By studying the genetics of their poison resistance, we might one day unlock new secrets about how our own nervous systems work, potentially leading to new types of pain medication or treatments for neurological disorders. By understanding the complex web that connects the frog to the beetles it eats and the snakes that hunt it, we can better appreciate the fragility of these rainforest ecosystems. These tiny, brilliant frogs are a powerful reminder that even the smallest creatures can possess an incredible power, and that the natural world is filled with wonders far stranger and more complex than we could ever imagine. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the world of the poison dart frog as fascinating as I did, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the wonders of science, and let me know in the comments what incredible creature you would like to see covered next.